Hello and welcome to the history of Babylon 5. Today's episode, Ambassador Jha'dur. Jha'dur was born in 2201 on the Narn homeworld in the city of Jha'dur during the first Centauri occupation. Like all Narns, Jha'dur had a different name at birth. Once reaching maturity, he chose the name Jha'dur because he had embraced the teachings of Jha'dur. He would remain a devoted follower for the rest of his life. During the final years of the occupation, Jha'dur's family worked as slaves in the household of a wealthy Centauri aristocrat and spoo ranch farmer. The resistance was growing each day, but with Jha'dur's mother too ill to move, and his father, Jha'dur, would not leave her behind to escape into the underground. One day, when Jha'dur was still young, his father spilled a drink on the mistress of the house. She responded by having him beaten and strung up by his hands to a jawal tree in the yard, leaving him there to die. On the third day, against his mother's orders, Jha'dur went to him just before he died. His father's last words were a plea for Jha'dur to remember him and honor his name. That same day, Jha'dur ran away and killed his first Centauri. Jha'dur would spend a great deal of time in one bomb shelter or another. Later in life, he would admit to feeling as much at home in a shelter as anywhere else. Jha'dur joined the resistance and developed his tactical and planning skills during years as a resistance fighter. His reputation was such that reports of his activities reached the Dilgar. After many grueling years of attrition and sabotage, the Narns finally liberated their homeworld in 2231. Over the next 21 years, Jha'dur rose through the social ranks of the new regime, until in 2251 he was appointed to the Kari, the regime's ruling council. During his time in the Kari, he made his share of political enemies, and by 2258 he claimed to have survived 2 assassination attempts. Among his more powerful enemies was Councillor Durag, whom Jha'dur managed to humiliate before the council and ruin his family's name. During the Earth-Minbari War, Jha'dur was the one to broker the deal for humans to buy weapons. He also approached to help mediate a desperate peace negotiations between the two sides. A Narn cruiser brought Jha'dur and the Earth Alliance officers John Sheridan and Stephen Franklin to an abandoning listening post in the Epsilon system to meet Lannan, a Minbari ranger. However, before negotiations could take place, the Narn ship was destroyed and Lannan was killed when their location was fired upon. Both sides believed a renegade faction from the other was responsible. In reality, it was a Centauri ship, thus ending any chance at peace. Jha'dur was briefly detained by the Minbari before being released and returned to Narn. The Babylon Project. In 2256, Jha'dur becomes the Narn ambassador to Babylon 5, a member of the Kari. He is a strong-willed and patriotic supporter of his people and their ideas. At some point before his arrival, he had breathing gills surgically implanted. Shortly after the arrival of Leda Alexander, Jha'dur proposes that she assist the Narns in acquiring telepaths among their people. Leda turns down the offer. Jha'dur is also involved with a plot to discredit Babylon 5 commander Jeffrey Sinclair. This plot involves the Narn smuggling a changeling net on board and giving it to a Minbari assassin. The assassin uses the device to frame Sinclair for the attempted murder of Ambassador Kosh of the Vorlon Empire. Just after the ambassador's arrival, Jha'dur then blackmails Ambassador Londo Mollari with the evidence of his grandfather's activities during the first Centauri occupation of Narn into not voting against the resolution to have Sinclair taken to the Vorlon homeworld for trial. The resolution goes through, but fortunately Sinclair is exonerated and Kosh's life is saved. Jha'dur also approaches Ambassador Delenn, proposing an alliance against the Centauri on the pretext that Mollari is the attempted assassin of Kosh. When she refuses, he admits to her that his spies have heard rumors about why the Minbari surrendered at the end of the war, mentioning the Grey Council. Delenn responds by briefly torturing Jha'dur, making him swear never to mention it again and ensuring that he understands where they stand. Throughout the year 2258, Jha'dur engages in a number of political, covert, and military-related conflicts and intrigue, all designed to weaken the Centauri Republic. Jha'dur often says that he dreams of a day where the Centauri are completely annihilated. He also develops a bitter, ongoing feud with Ambassador Londo Mollari. Jha'dar's anger and hatred towards the Centauri are summarized when he speaks to Commander Jeffrey Sinclair about when all Centauri are dead and we have carved their bones into flutes for little Narn children. And we'll be right back after this. Earlier in the year, the Centauri agricultural planet of Ragish 3 comes under attack. When details first come in, Jha'dur offers his sympathies to Ambassador Malari, but adamantly denies the Narns have launched an attack. When more data comes in, depicting Narn fighters at the colony, Malari angrily confronts Jha'dur and the Zocalo. Jha'dur, knowing full well what has happened, simply quips that the times have changed and the Narns are on the rise. Malari attempts to physically attack Jha'dur, but is restrained by security guards, although the Narn coolly stands his ground. While the Centauri government officially tells Malari that they will not respond with military force, Malari hopes to prompt the Babylon 5 General Assembly to act, embarrassing the Centauri Republic into action. Jha'dur outmaneuvers him, however, by playing a tape of a coerced confession from Malari's nephew, who was stationed on Ragish 3, explaining that the Narns were invited to come. Jha'dur also knows that the Republic does not wish to act. He also moves that the General Assembly take no action against the Narn regime, and the motion passes. Unfortunately for Jha'dur, Ambassador Sinclair has engaged and defeated a wing of raiders, with Star Furies from the station. Sinclair uncovers the source of the raiders' weapons, a Narn base, with a Narn military officer. The station also intercepts transmissions proving the attack on Ragish 3 was unprovoked. Sinclair threatens to expose the evidence unless the Narns withdraw. Jha'dur reluctantly agrees to make it happen. Jha'dur's first diplomatic acheté is Kodath. Insulted when Ambassador Malari sends his aide Fir Kato to negotiate the Euphrates Treaty, Jha'dur instructs Kodath to fill in for him while Kato is there, growling to her not to give away the homeworld. Kodath is killed shortly thereafter in an apparent airlock malfunction. As Babylon 5 prepares for a week-long series of festivities, celebrating the religious traditions of various races on board, a courier named Tupari arrives with a message for Jha'dur. The message is from his old political enemy, Durag, who is dying but has plans to take his revenge on Jha'dur. He informs the ambassador that he has hired an assassin from the Many Knives Assassins Guild, who will stalk Jha'dur, making him live in fear for 48 hours, and then he will die. Even as the message finishes playing, Jha'dur's new aide Natath arrives, making him suspect her immediately. He soon receives a death blossom, a gift left by the Many Knives, to their marks. This prompts Jha'dur to approach Nagrath and hire a bodyguard, but the guard is quickly murdered by the assassin. Due to certain information pertaining to why his old enemy wanted his death, Jha'dur cannot disclose the threat to station security. He confronts the courier who delivered the message, only to find that the courier is in fact the assassin. The assassin takes Jha'dur to a secluded part of the station and tortures him with the Pain Giver. Though Jha'dur refuses to cry out, he is saved by Natath and gets his revenge against the assassin by making it appear the killer had been bribed, knowing that the Many Knives will now hunt him down. Jha'dur is brought in when an Earth corporation wishes to send Catherine Sakai to survey Sigma 957 as a possible source of Quantium-40. The planet is in contested space by the Narn. Jha'dur refuses to consent, insisting that the planet is not safe. Sakai accuses the Narn of trying to hold on to Sigma 957 out of spite, as it is too far to use. Jha'dur warns her that if she goes over his head and goes to the planet anyways, she will likely not come back. Realizing she will do just that, he arranges for a pair of Narn Phrazy fighters to head to the planet and render assistance to Sakai. She does in fact need assistance when her ship is damaged by the walkers of Sigma 957. Upon her returning to the station, Sakai thanks Jha'dur for his assistance. She asks him about what she saw, but he responds that he has as much chance explaining to her what they are as an ant would have explaining to another ant about humans and Narns. When the mass murderer and war criminal Jha'dur, aka Deathwalker, comes on board the station, Jha'dur is upset to learn that Natath brutally attacked her in customs. He apologizes to the commander and she is placed under house arrest in his quarters pending further investigation. Na'Toth proclaims that she has a Narn blood oath against Deathwalker and is honor-bound to carry it out. Jha'dur forces her to stand down. However, as he knows that Deathwalker has seemingly created a serum for immortality, Na'Toth's attack disrupts a planned meeting between Jha'dur and a Narn operative. The attack makes this approach impossible, so it falls to Jha'dur. He approaches her and asks her to come to Narn, rather than seek asylum on Earth. Deathwalker says she will agree, but only if Jha'dur delivers the head of Na'Toth. Refusing to do so, Jha'dur informs the League of Non-Aligned Worlds about her presence, knowing that the races that have been ravaged by Deathwalker will want revenge. During a vote in the General Assembly, he moves that Deathwalker be tried on Narn, but this is rejected. A compromise is finally reached, where the serum would be shared. But the hope of immortality ends when the Deathwalker's ship is destroyed by the Vorlons. And we'll be right back after this. Jha'dur is approached at this time by Tharng and Mola. Jha'dur, who had never even heard of their race until they came to him, is completely uninterested in giving any assistance, as they have nothing to offer in terms of strategic alliance. When Earth President Luis Santiago is scheduled to arrive on the station for a conference, Jha'dur is insulted that the Narn delegation is seated next to the Vree at the banquet. According to Jha'dur, watching them eat, that's horrifying for you. When Michael Garibaldi is framed for planting a bomb on board the station, one of his suspects for the frame-up is Jha'dur. Jha'dur proves he is not to blame, and offers to smuggle Garibaldi off the station back to Narn space, offering a position. Garibaldi turns down the offer. Jha'dur does not reveal Garibaldi to security, and the security chief eventually is cleared. As the highest-ranking member of his faith on the station, it falls to Jha'dur to hold a particular religious ceremony during the Days of Jha'dur. The ceremony requires the use of a Jha'dur nth plant, a now rare plant almost eradicated by the Centauri occupation, and it has to be performed at a precise time. Jha'dur, mindful of the responsibilities he has to his religious community, made arrangements months in advance to acquire the plant. However, because of an incident in the docking bay, the ship carrying the plant to Jha'dur is destroyed. Jha'dur asks Na'Toth to locate another. She is successful, but the only one available is being held by Londo Mollari. The Centauri ambassador first taunts Jha'dur, then offers to sell it to him for the outrageous sum of 50,000 Earth credits. Jha'dur manages to come up with the money, but Mollari rebuffs him, telling him he'd rather burn the plant instead. He also mentions that this is part of his revenge for Ragash III. After cooling his rage, Jha'dur appeals to Commander Sinclair, who is in the middle of a dock workers' strike. Sinclair agrees to speak with Mollari, but his appeal is unsuccessful. Desperate, Jha'dur arranges for a statue of a Centauri god to be stolen from their temple. Sinclair forces Mollari and Jha'dur to a meeting where he insists that the statue be returned. He also impounds the plant, though to Jha'dur's dismay the time has already passed for the ceremony. Sinclair points out that the light from 12 years ago, the distance from the Narn homeworld to the station, would be arriving at the station in a few hours. Jha'dur finds this suffices, and goes forward with the ceremony. When Morden first comes on board Babylon 5, the first ambassador he visits is Jha'dur. Asking the Narn, "What do you want?" After pausing a moment, Jha'dur replies bitterly that he wants the Centauri completely wiped out. When Morden asks what does he want after that, Jha'dur replies that he has never thought that far ahead. Evidently disappointed at the answer, Morden leaves and Jha'dur dismisses the incident as foolishness. As the Earth year comes to a close, the Narn again are engaged in aggressive moves against the Centauri. This time, they wish to force the Centauri into abandoning all claims to Quadrant 37. As the Babylon 5 Council makes little progress, Sinclair tries appealing to Jha'dur directly in his quarters. He warns Jha'dur that the Narns are at a crossroads. Shortly thereafter, the Narn outpost in Quadrant 37 is mysteriously wiped out, with all 10,000 Narns killed. When Jha'dur learns of the attack from Natuth, he realizes instantly it is not the work of the Centauri or any other one of the known races, but rather an unknown one. On the day of Earth President Luis Santiago's death, Jha'dur leaves the station to investigate the new enemy. Hey, thank you for watching the first part of the history of Ambassador Jha'dur. Special thanks to the Babylon Project and all contributors for all information you heard today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you can. If you have, thank you. And have a nice day. Bye-bye.